All right, everyone, welcome back into another prop betting video. Going to be breaking down all the best bets today in the NBA, maybe some college basketball as well. Just a quick recap from yesterday, guys. Another pretty solid day, 5 for 7 on the day there, with the underdog slip hitting 2 for 2. So continued a nice stretch that we have been on this whole season, this whole year. Hopefully we can continue that this week, guys. Let's go ahead and jump on into the top prop bets for today. Now, guys, I do want to start off with one major prop line difference that we are getting between two sites. That's going to be prize picks and underdogs. So if you guys are some of that bets on those sites, I really do like the idea of getting to Kawhi Leonard for over his fantasy score here of 42.5. Now, we do have to worry about him being questionable to play in this game, but overall, we don't care. If we're betting on his over, it just will end up being a DNP. Again, guys, looking at this, the underdog line is at 45.8 if we just round up there. Okay, so clearly the prize picks line is too low. And if we look at his game log, guys, we see why we are getting the prop line differences, right? He would have hit the middle there, and then for the most part, has been consistently getting the over. The only concerns that we have is, the 12.5 point spread and also the game total. It's a lower scoring game, but all in all, that's ends up being a very solid bet. So 53% likelihood for that to hit, but because of the massive prop line difference and because we're being told to bet on his over, basically based off of every other metrics that we have, that ends up being a very solid bet for us to target. And then, guys, I do think it's worth calling out. We are getting some pretty decent bets here on the Prize Picks College Basketball Optimizer as well. So just worth calling those out, some plus EV bets. Literally, if you just want to put in these four, the Kawhi Leonard bet, and then these three right here, you could do that. I actually like into these two a little bit more, but we're getting, pretty solid board for today on Wednesday. And then just real quickly as well, guys, on Dabble, using the Dabble NBA Optimizer, we're getting two decent bets here as well for some unders. Christian Braun and VJ Edgecombe for under their rebounds, 4.5 and 5.5. Okay, so that kind of does it for the easier bets that we are getting in the day. Now let's go ahead and jump on into the game-by-game breakdown. And so let's start out here with the first game. We are getting Cleveland versus Philly, guys. Decently high game total, 237. The issue that we have really with Philly is we don't know who's going to be active in this game. They're all listed as probable, so I think we are expecting that. At the same time, we have seen a lot of random DNPs out of them, so you never know for sure, but just assuming that they're going to be good to go, and based off of the Vegas line, to me, it suggests that they are. I don't think we're necessarily going to get any edges with any of the bets that we're getting for them, but for Cleveland, with Max Strus, Dean Wade out, Sam Merrill is someone that we could potentially be looking at. I say that because he did let us down on a previous slate where I think our slip went 4 for 5 or 3 for 4 because it was 2 for 3. And I'm going 2 for 3 because he missed out. We were doing a game stack there. We'll see if he's popping up once again. And so just looking at this, we are getting Sam Merrill over 11.5 points. A lot of people are betting on this one. I get it. I like it, actually. It does make sense. He is someone that, again, with those two players off the court, he averages closer to 13.5 points per 36. He's projected only to get 25 minutes, so it could end up being tighter than what we have him projected to get, but it is a decent matchup. I'm okay getting to that one. And then from there, nothing too crazy. I mean, we do have Evan Mobley for his blocks and steals over 2.5, and I'm actually curious if he gets that over, what are we looking at for his fantasy score? 39.5? Yeah, probably don't need to get to that. Maybe a decent little prop line difference there for underdog. Maybe we end up getting to that. I actually don't mind that. That's not a terrible approach, but don't hate the idea of getting to some of his overs here. But everyone else, pretty much in this game, I would say the lines that we're getting for them are correct. I don't think we need to force anything. We'll see the best bets that we're getting. Sam Merrill can be one of them. Tyson's a little interesting, I guess. 16 points, rebounds, and assists for the over. Again, with Dean Wade and Max Strus out, he is someone that does benefit a little bit minutes-wise. Maybe you could get to that one there as well. And so from there, let's jump on into Toronto versus Indiana. Same players that are still out for Indiana that have been out. And then we look at Toronto, guys. Let's take a peek at this. So Emmanuel Quickley, questionable with back spasms. Garrett Temple, questionable. Sandro, questionable with an illness, so you never really know with that. Walter is out, though, and Joachim Poeltl still out. We do know RJ Barrett is out as well. So lots of interesting stuff there, I would say, for sure. And so we do have Colin Murray Bowles projected to get a decent amount of minutes more. And so that kind of suggests that Sandro could end up sitting, even though we haven't projected to get minutes. Jamal Sheed is projected to see a minutes bump. He is someone that I don't mind betting on. And this is a close game, and I don't actually mind getting to this game. Yes, it's a low game total, but I kind of like the idea of getting to some of the Toronto plays. And so I do want to call it that, we're not getting any lines for Sandro. And that is important because he's actually the player that gets the most minutes. Well, actually, let's see. I just saw the filter on. Okay, we are getting lines for Sandro. Apologies. I was going to say that might suggest that he's going to sit, but no, we are getting lines. Apologies. He does get the most minutes with Barrett, Walter, and Joachim Poeltl off the court. And so the issue that we have with him is we can't really trust the minutes to be there. They haven't been there the last 2 games, and Colin Murray Bowles has been someone that has been getting the run. And I almost think that this could be a spot where you're just betting on maybe Colin Murray Bowles to get his overs, and then you could be looking at Sandro to get his unders. Like that heavily correlates because it's just whether or not, which players are going to end up getting the minutes. And I do think if Sandro ends up being ruled out, then Colin Murray Bowles would end up being someone we'd want to get to for the overs regardless. Then I mentioned I don't mind the idea of getting to Sheed. Let's talk about him. So Sheed is someone, guys, per 36, does average 2.2 3-pointers made. Not exactly about I feel like we need to get to, especially in a more difficult matchup for him. I'm actually sad about some of the lines that we were getting for him because I did want to bet on a lot of his overs. Per 36 wise, he does average 9.3 assists per 36 with Barrett, Walter, and Joachim Poeltl off the court. The issue is we know he's not going to get that minutes. And I feel like all the lines that we're getting for him are just correctly juiced up. Like they're at the point of where they should be. And so I don't feel like we need to necessarily get to any of those over bets. And so with that, I think all the bets that we were getting right now for Toronto are basically correct. And we do need to talk about Furphy because he has been someone that has been popping up somewhat for some of his overs. And I've kind of toyed around with him. That's somewhat appealing. Assuming he does get the minutes, which is an assumption. Like we see limited minutes there, 20 plus there. It seems to be somewhat random to me. But I could potentially see betting on his over 5 points. He's almost someone that you juice up. You either say he's going to really have a good game, and let's actually see. Does he get any demon points bets? 7.5, 9.5. I mean, not terrible. I would say for like 7.5 points, and just to bet on the minutes to be there. But that's probably something that we don't really need to get to. That'd be forcing a little bit. We are seeing Jay Huff for over 8.5 points. He falls along that same line. If the minutes are there for him, he's going to get the over, most likely. Now, it is a more difficult matchup, but we see he's projected for 21 minutes. That seems to be like a middle projection. We see some games 19, 24, 31, 17. Like that seems to be just like, all right, we really don't know. Just going to put it in the middle, hope to be correct, somewhat correct, or hope to not be completely wrong, pretty much with the projection, which I would probably agree with that approach with them. Micah Potter's been someone that's been getting some run as well. Ben Shepherd, don't really need to get to his over points. So far, nothing too crazy in regards to us getting some big edges. We'll move on into Brooklyn versus the Pelicans, guys. So Brooklyn, a little bit healthier, guys. Cam Thomas is back. Michael Porter Jr. is good to go. And then we look at the Pelicans. Alvarado, DeJounte, and Herbert Jones are out. Bay ended up being active in yesterday's game, which I was a little bit worried about the Trey Murphy bet that I gave you guys. Although, if he is going to be at like 36 for his fantasy score, I still think like on a per slate basis, we are just going to continue to bet on that over. And so the one player that probably wouldn't benefit with everyone being active is Jordan Poole, right? But he ended up going off for 21 points in his last game with Bay back. 23 minutes, guys, shot the basketball well, shot a bunch of 3 balls as he is going to do. So that's just an interesting thing to call out. Bay ended up having himself a pretty good game yesterday, going for 16 points. And sorry, I had to refresh the game log data. He went for 17 points in his first game back from injury. The previous game had went for 16. He ended up getting 32 minutes. I do wonder if he could potentially be limited here on the back end of a back-to-back. But if he is good to go, and if he's not limited, I do like this bet. The question is, if he is limited, this does become a more difficult bet. It'd be great to say, oh, he may or may not play. And if he doesn't play, then we're good to go. Like if he was questionable, I'd be much more inclined to tell you guys to bet that over. But that being said, if he does end up getting his normal run, like that's a very low line. And then yeah, with Trey Murphy, guys, if we are going to continue to get his line at 36, I will be continuing to bet on his over. He consistently gets the over. Yes, with Bay being back. Yes, with Zion being back. We don't necessarily like that. And maybe once Herbert Jones gets good to go, or any of the other Pelicans get good to go, then we would consider not betting on the over. But overall, he is going to consistently get this over, especially in good matchups, especially in games that are projected to stay close. And so I'm just going to continue to ride the hot hand with him. If you guys want to do his over points and assists, that also is a very appealing bet. I know a lot of people like to bet on more traditional sites. By all means, that would be a pretty darn appealing prop bet there as well. And then with this, guys, we have fears for over his fantasy score. He is someone that did get hurt a decent amount there with Bay being back, and so I'm probably just not touching that bet. Sharp Sharp has been someone that's been going off lately, guys, because he's gotten a decent amount of run recently. And so he is someone that maybe we could look at 4 is over. I wouldn't hate that for his fantasy score. And then some of these other bets are probably just not worthwhile to me, like Cam Thomas. I wouldn't want to get to his over. Actually, you probably could get to his under. But from there, I think the lines that we're getting here in this game are correct. Then we jump on into the Bulls versus the Jazz. Okay, so finally we had AO be a letdown for us. He ended up having just a cold night. And so I don't mind doing that, guys. What were we, 5 for 6 betting the overs on him, or 4 for 5 betting the overs on him? Pretty darn good, okay? But now and the reason why that is because his lines were consistently lower than they should be. That kind of was happening with Anthony Black early on in the season when Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner were out. They just weren't adjusting his lines correctly for his per 36 production, so we just kept hammering it, knowing all well that, sure, one bad game could happen, and it did. And now he's kind of back to playing well. We'll see with AO there, but now we don't necessarily feel the need to have to go out of our way to target that one. Kobe White and Modest are projected to get minutes bump, and actually AO, darn it, could get a minutes bump here. And let's actually see why. Kobe White will not play on Tuesday, so it'll be interesting to see if he ends up playing tonight. We saw Josh Giddey out. And on the flip side of this, guys, we have Lauri Markkanen listed as questionable as well. That changes a decent amount. I think we'd be looking at Yusuf Nurk to have a very solid game. This is a high-scoring game and a close game, so naturally we're going to like to target some of the overs. I do think with Keontae George we're getting a good over bet, and I do like seeing Kevin Love out just in the sense that Cody Williams is popping up as a decent prop bet, and so is Phi, and we could be looking at those two for some of their overs. And so please, let's get some good over bets, and we kind of are, guys. Like, I do wonder how fast these lines are going to get bumped as I'm recording this video. If they are still there, take them all. They all are pretty appealing. So Cody Williams, yes, you'd want to be betting on his over points, rebounds, and assists. Just the minutes should be there. He's only projected for 13 right now. Again, I'm assuming that's wrong just due to some of the players now being ruled out. If you want to get to over his rebounds and assists, that's also a good bet. Again, that's just assuming that he ends up getting more minutes than what he's currently projected to get. All of those bets would be considered good bets. Let's just take a peek at are they getting any fantasy scores? No for Cody or Phi, and then Cody Williams are getting fantasy score. No. And the reason why I think that's important to call is because sometimes they won't adjust that line, which is kind of wrong when they don't. Vucevic, man, I would assume against Utah he'd be able to crush this over, assuming that he gets 30 plus minutes, assuming this game stays close. That's interesting to me. Trey Jones has been better recently. I don't know if we want to mess with him, but yeah. Oh man, I think we go back to the well with AO. Didn't necessarily shoot the basketball well at the start of the game and was kind of just cold in the first half. Only played 23 minutes. Maybe it being the front end of back-to-back had something to do with it. I'm a sucker for it. Let's just and hope Kobe White's out. Let's just roll with that. Hope Kobe White's out. Good matchup. I do like the over. Modest. I'm hammering this over, guys. I think. Love the fact. Well, it's a slight prop line difference between prize picks and underdog. Don't love the fact that he hasn't gotten the over the last 2 games. Okay, don't love that. Not the best from 3-ball range over the last couple of games, which is all right. Too many turnovers. Not enough blocks last game. More steals. But it's just the matchup. I do think, I like the idea of stack in this game. I think we could run out a 6-slip stack in this game. So like Cody Williams, Phi, AO, Modest, heck, even Kobe White, if he does end up playing, I probably wouldn't hate this over as well. Again, this is just a bet on the game. You'd probably want to do the underdog line there. Vooch, we could get to the over. Probably not a Coro. Don't need to do that. Then I was curious about Yusuf. Nothing too crazy for him. And they actually took off Keontae George over 40.5 for his fantasy score, which was a decent prop line difference between the 2 sites. That's annoying. I really like that over bet. We'll see what his line comes out to be for that. But let's see any other lines that we're getting for him. Yeah, I don't know if we need to get to his 32.5 points and assists, but again, I don't mind the idea of game stacking. Last game against Chicago did really go off, and I do think that ends up being a decent approach to roll with. And so from there, we'll jump on into Dallas versus Denver, guys. A very close game, actually. I'm a little bit surprised by that. J-Val, Jokic, and Cameron Johnson are still out, but really, guys, Denver's been pretty solid even without them, so that's interesting there. We'll see if we continue to ride the hot hand with Peyton Watson. And what's surprising to me is just how many players are out for Dallas, guys, okay? Brandon Williams is his last status was out, okay, but he's listed as questionable with an illness, so we'll see. PJ Washington also questionable, okay, his last status was out. He is projected for minutes. Brandon Williams is not, so worth calling that out. But then they're really thin after that. And then you also do have Max Christie, who's listed as doubtful. Okay, so let's just go with the assumption that Brandon Williams and Max Christie are out, and then you still have all those other players out. Okay, we see the mids bump to a lot of players, and so this ends up being a kind of interesting spot. And so let's just take a peek at kind of the data with Christie, Davis, and Brandon Williams out the court. And I want to start actually with PJ Washington because we know he's kind of the player that benefits the most just with Anthony Davis off the court. And his lines are, I would say, egregiously wrong. Okay. He averages 19.7 points per 36 with Anthony Davis off the court. He averages 10.5 rebounds per 36 with Anthony Davis off the court. I think we could potentially be looking at his over points and rebounds as well. Although when we combine those two together, not necessarily worth it. We'd want to pick or choose one of the two. That being said, I think we could even get to his over points, rebounds, and assists. He only averages 2 assists per 36, but you collect those all together and he ends up being pretty appealing. But I just like getting into his over fantasy score, guys. He is someone that typically will produce fantasy score-wise, more so because he'll get some multiple blocks and steals. And so if you're telling me his PRA is at 21.5 and then his fantasy score is at 28, it is a little bit tighter than I would like there with that discrepancy, especially when he's at 1.5 turnovers. So we're basically betting on him getting 2 blocks and steals there. That's essentially the bet. I don't mind it though, but also the 13 points is just clearly too low. And again, that's assuming that all those players end up sitting. We're kind of hoping that Brandon Williams does sit as well with Max Christie out. But the usage goes up a bunch for him. Okay, he's at a 23% usage rate. That is up by about 2.3. So I'll do his over points. If you guys want to get to a different one, you can. Cooper Flagg is coming in off of one very disappointing game and then one very good game. I would say his lines are too high, though. I would actually probably want to bet on his unders if we were going to bet on anything for him. Najee Marshall, his lines are a little correct. Like, it's a good matchup for him. He actually averages 19 points per 36, so I'm a little bit surprised we're being told to bet on the under. Again, I think that makes for a decent traditional sportsbook bet. And then Klay Thompson has been forced to see his usage go up here with everyone being out or injured. And he's someone that actually averages 20 points per 36. He's only projected for 15 minutes or 25 minutes. That should be enough for him to get his over. The issue with him is he's kind of been a hot and cold shooter, and I don't necessarily love the idea of chasing that. And then we do need to talk about Daniel Gafford as well, because Daniel Gafford is actually the best bet in this game for over 8.5 points. And I don't know, guys. Like, 25 minutes, hasn't been shooting the basketball well. Per 36 wise, he does average 14 points per 36, so you adjust that for 26 minutes, and he still would get the over. I don't know. That's tough because we should be betting that up. We should be betting his over points and rebounds, to be honest with you guys. Averages 13 rebounds per 36. That's just a tight line. In that matchup, though, we probably should be chasing it. But maybe we do just try to bet on Vegas being correct about this game. And if Vegas is correct about this game staying close, then we could just do a lot of over bets. And maybe we get lucky with an OT game or something like that. I do like Jalen Pickett to continue to play well, assuming that, everyone's out that's projected to stay out. Christian Braun being back and playing 27 minutes is a little bit interesting to me. Had a terrible game in his most recent game. It has been struggling lately, but you expect him to figure it out eventually. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been someone that's been benefiting with all those players being out, and I kind of don't mind riding the hot hand with him. He's a little bit shot dependent as well, but overall, I think we're fine kind of rolling with him. Again, if we're chasing maybe some game stacks here, I think that makes sense. Pickett, Tim Hardaway, and some of those other ones. Peyton Watson, what are we doing? 36.5 for his fantasy score. Again, I'm just riding the hot hand there, guys. I'm perfectly happy to get to that one still. Not a big prop line difference between the two sites, and don't love this. I do not love this, okay? But I'm fine riding the hot end because per 36 with J-Val, with Jokic off the court, averages like 45 fantasy points per 36. Just clearly too low of a line. So I do end up liking that one a decent amount. Now, this might not make the bet of the day because it only has a 51% likelihood for it to hit. Typically speaking, I like to give you guys bets that I like, that also the data that Vegas is also telling us to bet the over. So just be on the lookout for that, guys. Like, if you guys want to get to that one as well, by all means do that. I'll get action on it. It's just not going to be on the bet of the day, most likely. Okay. I like the idea of game stack in this game. And you know what? I will say on part of the bet generated slip optimizer part here, I think I should do filter by game as well. So we can do some game stacks. That's one of the beauties of NBA compared to other sports where you can game stack and not be penalized for it. The payout is not going to be changed at all. And I'm going to write that down. That's a good idea. Just because, that's going to make our life a lot more simple. Like, you can literally go through as I'm doing this like this and say, oh, yeah, I do like that bet. And then just click on the game and place that bet. It's not a terrible way to go about doing it. Aaron Gordon over his PRA is a little bit interesting as well. If it's going to be, again, we're kind of betting on the game stay close, maybe. I don't hate that idea, but probably too tight. All right, so now we got New York versus Sacramento. And we still have, is Schroeder still out for this game? This is his third game off of the suspension. Okay, great. So he's still out. Keegan Murray and Sabonis are still out. So we are probably looking at Westbrook, LaVine, and DeRozan to all see a decent bump. We'll see if we're getting a prop line difference for them. New York is healthy. This game could be a blowout 11-point spread. And so let's just take a peek at the Kings lines that we're getting. Again, with Russell Westbrook, we are seeing his line probably be a little bit too low. But given the matchup, that's why we are getting it lower than like his per 36 production suggests, because it's like 30 or it's like 45 fantasy points per 36 with those players off the court. Same thing with DeMar DeRozan. Like I would say his line's probably correct as well, but DVP wise, he actually draws a better matchup, even though the game total is not perfect. Maybe we get to this one. Are we getting a underdog line difference? We are. All right. There we go. There's a good underdog bet. Okay, because look at this, guys. 33.4. He gets the over for the underdog line 4 straight times then. And why is that significant? Well, Schroeder's been out the last 3 games. Okay. Yes, that's a good underdog bet. So that'll definitely be making the bet of the day, I would say, for underdog guys. And then we need to take a peek at Zach LaVine. The issue is it is kind of 2 out of the 3. Like 2 out of the 3 are probably undervalued. Again, LaVine, yeah, a decent prop line difference for him between the 2 sites. He got the over in the last game on underdog. He's someone that if you were betting on him, I would probably do a middle. I like the over though. If it's not going to be Westbrook, it will be LaVine, right? And maybe that's something you stack together, unless the game goes into OT. And then let's take a peek at the last game, guys. Washington versus the Clippers. Trae Young is still out here in this game, just as an FYI. So like Keyshawn George to get over his fantasy score is probably too low. But also he's been so streaky this year, I don't think we necessarily need to get it. For DFS purposes, guys, Koulibaly was pretty chalk in the last slate. So it seems like people like him, and just holding that same thought process, like his over 10.5 points would be an interesting line to get to. Trey Johnson has been someone that has seen his mints increase a little bit more than what he's been projected to get. And I don't hate that idea of getting to him. It's probably a little bit too low, but it is a more difficult matchup. And then again, guys, James Harden. Oh, geez, what do we do? We're seeing James Harden with a big prop line difference as well. He's someone that with the underdog line, he has gotten the over 4 out of the past 5 games, minus this one game where he went off. I don't know what to do with this, because this is clearly one that we should probably be betting on the middle with, right? And wait, I want to check this again. So we have Harden at 45.5. Underdog has him at 48. Kawhi Leonard, underdog has him higher. That's strange because they've actually been heavily correlated together. Like one site has been lowered, the other site's been higher. That is strange to me. I do think we bet on the over for Harden on underdog more so, but that's interesting. I find that very, and that's because it's a good matchup, but that's interesting. And no, I misspoke, guys. Underdog is higher on both. My bad. Apologies. Underdog is higher on both of them. I still don't know what to do with Harden. We probably got to be betting on his over, honestly. I think we middle this. I do. I think we middle this. Yeah, let's middle that. So bet on his over on Prize Picks, bet on his under on underdog. And I don't hate the idea of getting to Collins as well for his over fantasy score. I just don't want to load up on too many Clippers players. It's so hit or miss with them, honestly. And like, sure, we can trust Harden and Kawhi, and the next man up is typically John Collins, and he gets a good matchup, but it feels too tight. And so let's get into the bet of the day, guys. Going to be using those 2 Clipper prop line differences. And so I do like the overs more for them because, well, it is a good matchup. And then definitely kind of riding the hot hand here with Murphy and Watson. A little bit still there with AO. So I mentioned I probably wouldn't be doing that many fantasy scores here, but that's kind of what the slate developed into. So apologies there. And then here we go, guys. We are getting this big prop line difference again with the middle and an opportunity with these 2. Oh, shoot, I messed this up. That was close. I just got a chance to cancel that. But yeah, we want to be running out the middle here with Kawhi and James Harden. Wish there's more analysis to that, guys. But, I mean, I think you see why it's happening. Good matchup, potential blowout. Still a lower scoring game. It makes sense. But then the DeMar DeRozan line, I do really like the over with. If you don't like that, guys, again, Zach LaVine for his over fantasy score is appealing on underdog. You could run his under on Prize Picks there as well. So lots of interesting spots here today. But guys, I do want to call out that the fantasy golf season is now starting Thursday morning. We got the Sony Open. So if you guys are looking for all the best fantasy golf picks for both DFS and outright betting, head on over to the 9 to 5 Golf YouTube channel. I have you guys covered with all the action that you guys want and probably more. And then also including the 9 to 5 membership is not only the tools that you saw throughout this video, but also the fantasy golf tools as well. All curated for you guys to make better and easier bets and DFS lineup decisions or just lineups in general. So check that out, guys. All the tools available on the 9 to 5 Sports website are available for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.